Emerald Kaizo is known as the hardest Pokemon ROM hack, and few actually choose to hardcore Nuzlocke it. But this video is going to try and show that anyone can Nuzlocke Emerald Kaizo with a little bit of patience, game knowledge, and ability to utilize resources. This game has been broken down to where we know exactly how the AI behaves, how Switch AI works, what encounters to go for, and what strats to use. And we're going to attempt to touch on all these aspects in this video. This video will be assuming we're playing with hardcore Nuzlocke rules, meaning we can't overlevel the next gym, we get one encounter per met location, no items in battle, and we play on set mode. To start, let's talk about the resources I suggest you use while Nuzlocking Emerald Kaizo. First of all, there are great documents for this game. A master sheet with all the wild encounters, trainers, and heart skill locations, learn set doc, and a move changes doc. Additionally, there is a special version of PK Hex called EK Hex that you can use without changing the ROM hack changes to your Pokemon. It also allows you to pre-status your Pokemon, which is important for pre-damage, and through EK Hex you can export your Pokemon sets to the Emerald Kaizo Showdown damage calculator. A great source with all the trainer Pokemon and movesets to see how much damage you deal and take. And a bait sheet to tell you what Pokemon comes in next in the trainer order, though I'll explain how Switch AI works in a bit. The last thing you need, of course, is Emerald Kaizo. I'll link to the game patch in the description, but additionally I'll link another patch that gives you 255 berries from every plant, makes fishing easier, and has other quality of life functions. All these will be the top link in the description. Now here's a list of all the major boss fights and the splits that go with them, ranked in chronological order and with the difficulty relative to the others. I had some second thoughts about Norman being easier than shown and Roxanne and Brawly maybe a little tougher than their scores shown, with them being a little bit more RNG dependent, so take this with a grain of salt. I know this might look overwhelming right now, but we're going to break down every split to give you a good understanding of how to conquer each one. But before we start the game, let's give a quick crash course on how the AI works. A full document with everything will be linked to the description, but the most you need to know is this. The AI will usually always go for its highest damaging move. If it sees kill with multiple moves, it will randomly select one that kills. If the AI doesn't see a kill and has a status move or non-damaging move, it is equal chance to go for highest damage or non-attacking moves. If you are faster than the AI and the AI has a speed lowering move like Rock Tomb or Thunder Wave, it will almost always go for that move if it doesn't see a kill. If the AI has an immunity to a spread move in a dull battle, for example, a flying or levitating partner has a move Earthquake, it will give Earthquake or the spread move +2 score, meaning it will have an equal chance to go for it over highest damage. If the AI has an ability that would benefit from its partner's moves such as Skill Swap on Slacking or Toxic on its Guts partner, it will always go for that move even if it sees a kill. If the AI sees a kill with a priority move, it will always go for it. If you went after your opponent the previous turn and the AI has a resist or immunity in the back, it will have a 50% chance of switching out the next turn. If the AI is slower and has a recovery move, it's about 50% chance of using that move, but if it sees a kill or is faster, it will not use the recovery move. The AI will have around a 10% chance to go for Boom at 80% HP or higher, about a 50% chance below half, and 95% below 30%. Not sure if those numbers are correct, but close enough. And this is just general AI behavior. There's a lot more to cover. I'll link a doc in the description for full AI behavior, but those are the basics. And lastly, before we get into the guide, let's talk about what the AI switches in after you kill. I did link a bait sheet down below, but basically how it works is, it switches in a Pokemon with a super effective move with the worst defensive type matchup against you. If there's a tie, then it looks at team order among the super effective. Then it looks at super effective non-damaging moves. And lastly, it would look at the move type matching the Mon that just died. When starting Emerald Kaizo, the first major decision the player makes is the starter choice. Starting with Trico, it uniquely has a very powerful fast grass stab, gets a huge buff from Overgrow allowing to sweep a lot of fights, and is amazing for Weather Institute, Aqua Hideout, and Rain Splits. You generally want hasty or naive natures, but modest, timid, or rash are all pretty good. IVs also matter a lot. Next is Torchic, who has insanely powerful stab moves and has a great type combination. It's specifically good for Elite Four, Flannery, and Magma Hideout, and gets a great move pool. Blaziken's stats are a bit more crucial, needing neutral speed 29 IV or plus speed nature 12 IV to outspeed Steven's Jirachi, and 31 IV neutral special attack to have a 15 out of 16 range, or plus special attack nature 10 IV to kill Steven's Jirachi. This value on the Elite Four, however, is insanely good as you kill the very scary Metagross and Jirachi back to back on the champion fight, though Blaziken is still great even without those stats. The consensus among Emerald Kaizo players is that these two are the best. Mudkip is overall decent, but doesn't have any outstanding uses, plus the player almost always gets a Whiscash. I definitely oversimplified the uses of these starters, but we will explain more about these later. The game starts off with a pretty tough gym leader that we are going to need to be ready for right off the bat. You get your starter and access to routes 102, 103, Odell, and Little Root. Odo Town being a fire type with Slugma and Numel being the best, and Growlithe, Ponyta, Charmander, or Cyndaquil being good fire types but won't help you much early game, aside from Ponyta getting double kicked before Roxanne. If you want the most consistent early game, Magcargo is the way to go, as there are few things that actually beat the Lilip. 1-2 Grass has some good stuff in Electrike, Ralts, Sandshrew, and others, but another thing you can do is fish for Carvanha or Barboach, two Pokemon that are very useful later on. 103 Grass has some great stuff with Sunflora trivializing early game, Tailo being a monster sweeper, Sparrow being a Brawly sweeper, and Ekans, Mareep, Poliwag, and Spoink being decent. You technically get your starter on Route 101, so we will skip this encounter. Does mean we can get our Little Root encounter though. For new players, it's recommended to go for Luvdisc, as it's a great fast charmer for Roxanne and Brawly. Though you can get Goldeen, who is okay for Brawly and a good dupe, but not amazing overall. For more experienced players, delaying Little Root is an amazing strategy, as you can get a much needed dark type in Crawdaunt, great water fighting type in Poliwrath, or an insane Pokemon past Norman and Feraligatr, though it's 50-50 to be battle armor. After getting all these encounters, the player can move through Route 102. It's completely safe to be level 10 or 11 here. Then in Petalburg City, it's recommended to fish for Azurill, who is amazing for Roxanne and Brawly. You also get your first berries. Technically, you have an unlimited resource of planting and harvesting, so most players hack an unlimited of these available berries. On Route 104, you always fish to get a Magikarp. This will be important for Brawly and many parts of the game. Make sure you are checking the master sheet to know when to pick up heart skills, as you only get 20 of them in the game and they're used to relearn moves. Petalburg Woods has some amazing Pokemon, some being Phanpy, Bellsprout, Pineco, Illumise, Mankey, and Slackoff. You will soon get to a Magma Grunt where leading your fire type, equipping berries, and having general strategies for is a good idea. We already got Magikarp on 104, so after getting some berries in the Bullet CTM, we can continue to fight two simple trainers, then get to a Smeargle double battle. If you have a spread move like Swift or Acid, that is fantastic here to ruin their gimmick. If not, try to use some bulky stuff to take Focus Punch. This brings us to Red. Meryl or Luvdisc Charmer lead is good here, with the rest being mainly type matchup based. We could then get Chesto Berries and head north to Route 115 and fish for Kabuto or Ammonite, both being great for Roxanne and amazing for the rest of the game. Battle Armor on both being the far superior ability. We can also get our Route 116 encounter, with just about everything here being good. For the Rustboro City encounter, you can delay this until after Flannery for Armaldo, but it's suggested to grab a grass type, especially if you pick Trico. You do have the option of fighting a dozen trainers to get the Rusturf Tunnel encounter, but that makes EXP very tight, and I suggest delaying this for now. Trico has a great time getting multiple kills, but watch the EXP, you can see how much you will gain from the little plus number on the side of the Pokemon in the Master Sheet. One major thing is Grovyle can kill 3 back-to-back on Hiker Mark, just be careful of overleveling. A couple of big threats in this gym are Josh's Sudowoodo, Tammy's Rhyhorn and Yama, and Mark's Baltoy. Roxanne can be a tough gym leader, especially if you don't have a great box fur. First thing to find is something that 2-shots Nose Pass. Since you are most likely faster, the Nose Pass will T-Wave you, getting rid of your Cherry Berry, then you use a stronger move to kill. Some examples are Double Kick into Bullet Seed with Grovyle, Seismitoss into Double Kick with Combusken, or Rock Tomb into Bulb Beam with Almanite. Though using something like Grovyle means you don't have a Chesto Berry for Lunatone. Speaking of which, you're gonna need a Lunatone answer. Grovyle works well, but you're probably gonna have to play pretty risky into it. Stuff like Carvanha, Sunflora, Luvdisc, Dunsparce can work well. Charming Lunatone is the best thing you can do, and make sure to have Chesto Berries equipped, and other grass or water types are probably your best bet. Torchic starters will struggle against this. The other big thing you need an answer for is a leap. Magcargo is usually the best. You should learn Rock Tomb if you're slower. A Will-O-Wisp and Recover Stall does the trick. Other counters include grass/poison types or things like Makuita. Toxic Stalling is great here. Combusken starters are also great here. After Nose Pass kill, you get a kill on a leap that comes in next. Then Shuckle is generally easily beaten by Meryl or Luvdisc. After some charming, you can reposition. Anorith is almost always countered by Kabuto or Ammonite, and Relicanth is killed by a grass type. Here are some examples of some Roxanne teams. Next we go to Route 116, get the tunnel encounter. Most rock types are good here. Fight a grunt and head to Dewford. On 106 you should get a seal, a very solid mon, especially for Wattson pivoting. On 107 you can get a clam pearl. Only experienced players with great Brawly teams should delay this for shelter. In Dewford City, we get a fighting type. Makwita is very solid. Mankey can be fantastic if you have 17 speed and 17 attack that can sweep Flannery with reversal. Endure also has a lot of uses. Machop is okay, and Tyrogue and Metatite are solid encounters. You can go to Granite Cave, but we are going to skip this for now. In Brawly's gym, make sure to be using your charm Pokemon, Clamperl, Starter, and other Pokemon effectively. A couple scary Pokemon here are Taco's Vigoroth, though you can cheese it into spamming Slack Off with something faster. Lilith's Combuskin, and finally, the reason you don't want any EXP on Gyarados is because a 1 HP Gyarados with Flail can sweep Battle Girl Jocelyn. Make sure to get the Silk Scarf from one of the houses. Probably is going to be a lot of pivoting. Hopefully you do have a ground type by now. Gyarados and that pivot well with each other, being mostly fighting and rock moves respectively. Gaining Intimidates, and Clamperl being Shell Armor can't get crit after those Intimidates. At some point you might have to risk a Gyarados crit and use Flail, especially on Metatite. Azumarill and Love Disc are also both sackable here. Poliwrath is a weird one where you're going to want something like Azumarill, Grovyle, or something else to take its stab moves. Stuff like Noctowl, Poison types, Charmers, Gyarados, Sunflora, Ground types, Pharaoh, and Chimecho are great here. After some Intimidates, Sunflora and Pharaoh can Growth and Rage respectively to sweep. Next, we go through Granite Cave to Steven. I still suggest delaying this encounter as you can get Nest Balls and Verdant Turf, and you might need to use this place to get Geodude. If not, Steven's room is usually the best place to get a Pokemon. The beach trainers are pretty easy, but I linked a really cool guide in the description if you need it. Here it's recommended to go for Squirtle, who will be a very solid water type, though delaying for Good or Super Rod isn't bad. There's a Swagger, Move Tutor, and Slateport, but we are going to want to keep this for Slowbro testing later. Slateport City, Route 110, and Route 118 are the routes you're going to want to go for Volt Absorb Chinchou. In the museum, you fight 2 grunts back to back. It's okay to be 25, maybe 26 on most things here. This is another trainer you can use Flail Gyarados on. You kill Shelter, Staryu, Croconaw, and Grimer back to back. Lombre has Focus Band, and on the next trainer you kill everything up to Whelmer, who has Lax Incense, which is basically Bright Powder. Make sure to run Lepaberry to restore Flail PP, and check your speed and your ranges with 1 HP Gyarados. On Route 110 we have another rival battle. Generally, ground types beat the lead, Fossil beats Pidgeotto, Nidorina can be kinda scary, but a water type can handle it, and the starters are going to be the biggest issue. Make sure to check your rival team's docs in the description to make sure you know what you're facing. Your Mauville City encounter is what you're going to be using to test for Volt Absorb Chinchou, and it's really nice to have electric types. The optimal way to do your Chinchou fishing is fish on Route 110 with Good Rod, then if you don't get it, fish in Slateport, then on 118, though 118 and Slateport can be swapped depending on what your encounters are. Use an electric type move on the Chinchou to test for VA. If it is, then catch it. If not, kill it. Even if it's your last Chinchou, kill it because you're going to want a VA Lantern late game. Some good stuff to pull on these routes are Tentacool, Carvanha, and Mantine. On 117, you most likely want to go for Barboach. If you don't get it there, 111 is a backup. If you already have Barboach, you can go for Corphish or Illumise. Route 17 can be a little tricky if you don't have any good plans for the trainers. Make sure to make use of your Azumarill, Gyarados, Lantern, and other Pokemon, and be careful not to get too high on EXP. Burn Turf Town has some great ground types. Be careful of stuff like Rhyhorn, who can hit hard though. You also get an X's or Move Tutor for later. Wattson's gym trainers can be a bit tough, especially Guitarist Kirk, Fisherman Ben, and Bug Catcher Angelo. Generally, NTing at levels 27 and 28 is fine. Finding safe answers for Loudred and Golbat, especially on Kirk, is a real pain. Stuff like Magcargo and electric types can work for Golbat, but you're gonna have to really dig for an answer. For Bug Catcher Angelo, you're gonna have to do a bit of pivoting with Gyarados and make sure to utilize your Lantern. Wattson is a pretty scary fight with a specific playstyle needed, and here is how Volt Absorb AI works. If the AI sees you have Volt Absorb, it will not go for an electric move, but in order to make this the case, the AI has to use an electric move against your VA Pokemon. If it hasn't used an electric move, or you swapped out and back in, or an ability like Intimidate or Pressure as procced, the AI will merely have a 50% chance of guessing if you're Volt Absorb or not. Generally, you want to lead a grass type against Jolteon with Cherry Berry to 1v1. Your VA Lantern can usually take on the Raichu, Electabuzz, and Manectric. Do have Gyarados and Dugong pivoting on any move and then switching back on electric move to heal up your Lantern. Make sure to pre-paralyze your Gyarados and Dugong so you don't switch Lantern in on a T-Wave, or get your Gyarados burned. Something like Mantine works well too. Ampharos can be a bit tricky, though stuff like Hariyama, Grumpig, and Donphan work well here. Here are some examples of some Wattson teams. After Wattson, we have a long split in front of us. Leveling up to 36/37 is usually fine here, but we don't need to increase too much until we fight Red 2. Make sure to bring a low level Pokemon with an EXP share when you can to manage your EXP. You can also evolve our fossil encounter, though it will be at level cap, so be careful on EXP. If you pick Grovyle, you can delay until 53 for Leaf Blade, though you might have to evolve for something like Maxie or Flannery with X-Scissor and Rock Slide respectively. Flannery split is where we are going to try and solidify some very useful Pokemon. Some of these include Tentacruel, Golem, Whiscash, and we will try to have at least one Dark type. 114 is a great place where you can get Tenta, Whiscash, or Geodude. 111 is a place for Geodude or Whiscash. If you get lucky with your encounters, you can delay this until after Flannery and Repelmanip at level 40 for a 30% chance for Trapinch though. Make sure to go back and get the black glasses and make your way to Route 112. Most things are decent here. You are going to be getting a few fire types, which is really good. Next are a few Magma Grunts. Be careful of Focus Band and Quick Claws, and in Fire Path, hopefully we can score a great fire type in Torkoal, Ponyta, Growlithe, and others. Also, make sure to have the Mach Bike to skip a couple trainers. Route 113 Grass has some decent Pokemon, and after some trainers, we get to Red 2. A couple things to note are you can PP stall the Snorlax with a flying type as you switch between that and anything else, as it will never earthquake your flying type. Usually a water type with Body Slam or Tentacruel can beat the Blastoise, and Espeon is the biggest issue. Hopefully you have a Psychic Resist or Immunity. Fall Arbor Town has some great encounters such as Aeron, and now we have access to the Mover Learner. Again, make sure you are checking the Master Sheet for Heart Skill locations. Some common Heart Skills are Head Smash on Golem and Superpower and Rock Slide on Blaziken. Don't worry too much about using Heart Skills, though you're going to want 8 or 9 for late game. Get the Dig TM, then on 114 we can go for Tenta, Whiscash, or Geodude, and now we have a big Magma Gauntlet before Tabitha and Maxie. It's really the first hard gauntlet with Focus Bands, Quick Claws, and Bright Powders, so planning and EXP management is key. Usually level 38 or 39 is okay here, but be careful and bring an EXP dump when you can. Grunts 5 and 9 are especially difficult, which the Focus Band Smeargle being hard to play around. Most people just throw Golem at it. Delay Meteor Falls for Milotic later, and make your way to Mount Chimney, where there are 2 tough grunts here. Don't be afraid to be level 40 on a few things here. On Grunt 2 and trainers with Explosion Mons, remember if you bait the Explosion Mon out last, it can't explode. Tabitha can be a tough fight, try to bait out the Weezing last. On Electric type or something else can beat the Dodrio, Whiscash or Lantern can beat the Manectric, and Aggron can be beaten by another ground type or Whiscash. Flygon is type matchup based, with something like Breloom or Dewgong being good counters. Maxie is next, and a pretty tough fight. Golem, Whiscash, or similar Pokemon are good leads. You are going to have to find an Alakazam answer. Stuff like Battle Armor Crawdon or Sceptile, but you might have to YOLO something like Megahorn Rapidash. Tentacruel is most likely your Houndoom answer. You might have to hard scale Muddy Water if you are slower or at Bat Speed F. Blaziken also works here. Claydol can be tricky, Gyarados is usually the most common counter, and Crobat has some decent coverage. Most people use Metcargo, but you can also use an electric type like Intimidate Manectric. Hopefully on the Dusclops you can tag team with Golem and some other bulky Pokemon. Get the Meteorite and head down to Fall Arbor with getting an encounter on Jagged Pass, but make sure you have the Acrobike to heal in between trainers. Get another fire type in Lava Ridge, the Charcoal, and the Wynot Egg, where we will be hatching here to not interfere with any other encounter locations. Now it's time for the dreaded Flannery Gym. A big thing here is the weather is always sunny, so fire types are going to hurt, but your own fire types are going to have a lot of value. With the sunny weather, there is a weird AI quirk with Solar Beam. Basically, if Solar Beam is the second highest damaging move, there is a 50% chance for the AI to just click Solar Beam. Also, if Solar Beam is the highest damage, there is a 50% chance for the AI to click its second highest damaging move. This all goes away, however, if you resist Grass or the AI sees a kill on you. So pre-damaging and using stuff like Tentacruel and Gyarados are great here. You're also going to be forced to push your EXP to the limit, so be careful of over-leveling your team for Flannery. There is a back-to-back you have to fight, and the last trainer, Expert Keegan, is especially tough with a Chlorophyll, Victory Bell, Octillery, and Houndoom. Victory Bell is really tough, with few encounters being Battle Armor Torkoal, your own Victory Bell, and stuff that takes neutral to its stabs. Good luck on that fight. But something you might need even better luck on is Flannery herself. Most likely you're going to have to risk crits, ranges, and sacrifice some Pokemon. Generally, one of your fire types can be Ninetales, a rock coverage Pokemon can be Charizard, something like Gardevoir or fast flying / psychic types can be Blaziken, Magcargo can be Arcanine, and Typhlosion and Castform are hard hitters that you will need bulky or fast Pokemon for. Some good Pokemon for this fight are Gardevoir, Magcargo, Camerupt, Blaziken, Gyarados, Tentacruel, Mantine, fire types, Rapidash, Fearow, Battle Armor Donphan, Hariyama, and Arcanine. If you got a Primate from earlier, you can Reversal Ninetales, Rock Slide Charizard, Reversal Blaziken, find something to beat Arcanine, sacrifice, then go back to Primate to kill Typhlosion and Castform. Best of luck on Flannery, guys. After that, we can get Toxic in Flannery Path, get Route 11 if we delayed, and we have access to Bagon, though you don't need it yet. Also, keep in mind for a Lotad encounter way later after the 7th gym, we are going to need a level 51 Pokemon to repel Manip for Lotad, so make sure we have one thing that's low enough level. We go straight to Norman. The most common path is Crit Room, Stall Room, Sleep Room. Norman is a dull battle that will always skill swap the Slacking turn 1, and the Snorlax can easily be PP stalled as long as you don't attack it. General strategy for this fight is you can easily bait normal fighting ground moves into your pivots and get intimidates, and hard hitters, Head Smash or Superpower do well here. Once you get the Snorlax in, you can focus down one slot. Pokemon with battle armor, rock or steel type, and intimidators do well here. Keep in mind the Espeon will always skill swap the Slacking turn 1 and will get the Truant ability that will proc the second turn, so you basically have 2 turns right off the bat where Espeon does nothing. After Norman, the level cap jumps to 55. Getting everything to 51/52 is safe. We also get Surf, but the only encounter we should be getting right now is Horsey on Route 134, which evolves at level 55 to Kingdra, so we can evolve that now. We also have new Mauville open to us, but it's suggested to delay until we get Ultra Balls and Fortree. We can now get our Salamence in Mirage Tower, make sure we repel to the top, bring a T-Waver or something like Super Fang. Speed and attack matter a lot on Salamence. Route 119 is where we are going next. There are a few trainers to beat, and ideally we are going to delay this encounter for Castform. It's pretty good for weather splits and normal type for the Elite Four if you need it, though most likely you're going to have something better. Going for another encounter here isn't a bad idea though, and make sure you have the Acrobike. Which brings us to Weather Institute, and if you pick Sceptile, you're in luck, because Overgrow, Leaf Blade, and Magical Leaf can sweep a lot of Pokemon here. Again, utilize the level advantage here, because after Weather Institute, there are only about 10 trainers before Winona. Your guaranteed encounters like Tentacruel and Kingdra also do well here. Remember, there is a rival fight after Weather Institute. You can also change your system time to get rid of or have rain. In Fortree City, we get a flying type, and we can go to Route 120. The grass here is pretty good. Make sure to talk to Steven to get the Sylph Scope, and we can now surf on 120 to Scorch Slab and get another fire type. Though some people do delay for another chance at Slowpoke, but you get about 5 50-50 chances for it. And remember, you have a guaranteed Muck encounter later on. Remember to go back and get the new Mauville encounter if you haven't done so already. Winona's gym trainers can be pretty tough, especially Eduardo and Sora. There most likely will be some risk on the Bright Powder Pokemon. Stuff like Salamence, Donphan, Fire types, Lantern, Tentacruel, Kingdra, Rock, and Steel types do well here. Winona herself is pretty fun. She has the Legendary Trio and some other good Pokemon. There is, however, a weird AI quirk where it gives priority to Earthquake when its teammate is a flying type. With this, Aerodactyl will always have a chance to Earthquake if it doesn't see you kill. The general strategy people use is to lead a Head Smasher, most likely Golem in one slot, and bait a move from at least the Zapdos with the other Pokemon. And what you switch in is crucial for what you bait. A lot of people lead Golem in something like Parasect, Shiftry, or Breloom, or even Mence to bait a move from Zapdos. And if you're ×4 weak to flying, you can also bait Aerodactyl HP flying. Big thing about Winona is baiting in the right Pokemon and setting up kills. If you have a fast Mence, you can kill something like Flygon or Crobat and bait in Articuno or Moltres and kill them with a rock move mid-turn. Mence is a good bait for HP Ice for Zapdos, and Ice Shard / Ice Beam from Articuno. Some good Pokemon for this fight are Golem, Salamence, Donphan, Aggron, Steelix, Cloyster, Torkoal, Kabutops, Almastar, and even stuff like Blastoise or Dugong can be used. Pokemon to bait moves like Parasect or Breloom, and usually you want a fire type to kill Articuno. There truly are a lot of ways you can play this fight. Quick side note, the best Pokemon for this might just be Battle Armor for Alligator with Ancient Power. Words cannot express how good for Alligator is in this game. Here are some examples of Winona teams. Next, we have the longest and hardest split of the game. Mount Pyre, Magma Hideout, Aqua Hideout, Fishing Simulator, and Tate Liza. We are still going to be able to level up to 63, 64, or maybe even 65 though, because everything is going to get to 66, 67, or 68 by the time we get to Magma Hideout anyways. But right now it's important to know what you can and can't sack or overlevel, so we will be needing to protect a number of Pokemon. We make our way down Route 120. This NPC gives us healing pinch berries, but these won't be useful until one of our Pokemon gets above 240 max HP, as citrus berries heal 30 HP points already, and pinch berries heal 1/8 of your HP, so if you're above 240 HP points, the value goes above 30 HP restored. Be careful of Cool Trainer Jerome and Kaizo Swarm Scizor. When you get to this ledge, make sure to bring a fly Pokemon. Route 122 has some okay Pokemon in the grass, with Execute and Weavile being the best. Lilycove City is home of another rival fight that could be underrated. Be careful of the lead Miltank and the Nidoqueen. Now we have access to Lilycove Department Store and a number of TMs. Lilycove has some good encounters. Sharpedo Crawdaunt with Old Rod is a good option. Cloyster from Super Rod being pretty good too, but you can also roll for Gramble in the grass being a good normal type. My suggestion is to delay this encounter until there is a situation where a water dark type or Cloyster would help you, or you can high roll for a normal type, because for the Elite Four you're most likely going to want a good normal type. But we will be getting more into the E4 teams later. The Safari Zone is really weird. Inside it there are Pokeblock boxes that can influence the nature on the Pokemon you get. There are a lot of good areas here, with Area 3 being great if you have the Evolution dupe, Area 4 helping you the most for Magma Hideout, and Areas 1 and 2 being good locations as well. What you need to do is go to the Pokemon Contest Hall, throw in a Pechaberry if you want plus speed nature on your encounter, which is probably the one you want, Orange/Chesto if you want plus special attack, Cherry/Shalepa if you want plus attack. Know which one you want, but also make 2 other Pokeblocks. These will be important for making sure your Safari Zone encounter does not flee. But also make multiple of each color Pokeblock, 2 or 3 of each color. And then follow these steps to have an easy capture on your Safari Zone encounter. Route 122 is where you will get Ghastly after Aqua Hideout, but we can get our Mount Pyre encounter. Getting Shuppet, Ghastly, or Mischievous here is amazing for Magma Hideout and Tate Liza. Now it's time to talk about Risky AI, which you will see here, but also a ton in Magma Hideout. Basically, various trainers in the game have little numbers next to them, meaning their AI behavior is altered. Mount Pyre is pretty easy with a big lull advantage, but be careful of the 3 back-to-back trainers, and eventually you get to Mount 1. With Risky AI, the Wailord will have a 50% chance to boom every turn. It's also very bulky. A common strategy is to use Bounce with Gyarados and try to go up as it booms. If it doesn't, you only die to boom crit, and you get a kill on the Machamp that comes in next. Another great strategy is if you still have a Azumarill, you can spam Charm until the Wailord booms, and if it crits, you lose a Azumarill, which isn't that bad. Make sure to play around the Truant Slacking with something like Fly Salamence. Gyarados and Dragonite are usually beaten by something like Donphan or Battle Armor Kabutops and Omastar, and Exeggutor is a big threat, and sometimes you might need to risk your Salamence on it. Now we face the ultimate test, Magma Hideout. Risky AI, Bright Powders, Quick Claws, Focus Bands, Sunny Weather, 16 trainers, and a deadly Maxie 2 fight. Many Pokemon here will die, and many dreams will be crushed. But to be prepared, we need to know what can die and what can't. Basically, you need good Pokemon for Rain Splits, Elite Four, and Tate Liza. Almost all your fire types besides Blaziken can most likely die. Ground types are sackable, a lot of grass types are sackable, and there are various cases of other sackable Pokemon. Some great Pokemon for Hideout are fast fire types, Whiscash, ground types like Donphan, Chlorophyll grass types, Salamence, Kingdra, Tentacruel, Camerupt, and Torkoal. But really, you're going to be using a wide variety of encounters and sacks. The hardest trainers include numbers 4, 6, 7, 9, and Courtney. If you don't have a Ghost type or Aggron, Choice Band Explosion and trainers with Explosion Pokemon in general become a lot scarier. Also, don't be afraid to push your levels to 67 at the start, and by the end, 68, 69, and some 70s. Maxie 2 is the single hardest trainer in the game. The general strat is to lead a superpower user or Sceptile to kill Tyranitar, Tentacruel for Flygon if you're fast, Salamence for Executor, Maxie's Arcanine and Entei being especially tricky. The Entei has a really good moveset and crazy special attack. Common quote-unquote counters include Camerupt, Torkoal, and Flygon, but you're gonna have to get creative with this fight. Pokemon such as Gardevoir, Tentacruel, Illumise, Flygon, Salamence, and Torkoal are some of the best Pokemon for Maxie 2. It's good to team build for this fight in particular first to make sure your Maxie 2 team doesn't die during the grunts. And here are some Maxie 2 teams. EXP will be a little tight here as we still got Aqua Hideout and Tate Liza to do. Aqua Hideout has scary Pokemon and items, but there isn't perma weather here, so it's more manageable. Stuff like Lantern, Kingdra, Tentacruel, Salamence, and Sceptile are few of the Pokemon that are good here. We eventually get to Mat 2 that has risky AI, meaning explosion from the Glalie lead is more likely. Hopefully you still have a fast fire type to kill this. A big issue here is the Kingdra. There really isn't much that can take a stab Draco and hit it hard. The Tauros, however, is pretty easy to bait a Choice Band and move, and the Dragonite and Wailord have some pretty easy counters. One unique strat is baiting in Tauros early, PB stalling it, and then sweeping with Sunflora. After a pretty tough boat double battle and getting Super Rod and Moss Deep, we get to what we call the fishing simulator. Here are some Pokemon you're going to need. First is Slowbro. You're going to test Shell Armor by using Confuse Ray or the move Swagger. The tutor for that is in Slateport. If the Slowbro or Slowpoke you get is confused, catch it. If not, run away and try another route. Route 130, Moss Deep City, Route 126, Route 127, and Shoal Cave are all options. The optimal place to start varies. You're going to also want a Relicanth. There are multiple routes you can do this. If you can afford it, killing some until you get Swift Swim is good for the Elite Four, but not needed if it messes with your encounters. After you get Relicanth, you are guaranteed a Quillfish on 105, a very important Pokemon. Once you have Quillfish and Tenta, you are guaranteed Ghastly on Route 122, an important Pokemon for Tate Liza. You're also going to want a Wilmer. The best place to get this is on Route 108 as long as you have a Sharpedo dupe. You're also going to want a Mischievous. The only place to almost guarantee it is on Route 131, though there is a 1% Altaria that can mess you up. On Route 126, as long as you don't need to use it for Slowpoke, you can get a Poliwrath or Feraligatr, two great Pokemon. Route 125 is most likely going to be a Celio. Route 126 is most likely a Corsola or Mantine depending on what dupe you need. Route 132 and 133 are places to get Staryu, a Pokemon you definitely are going to want. You are also going to want to get an Armaldo for Tate Liza's gym. You can get this on 128 or 129. If you haven't got a VA Lantern, you are also going to want to get one of those. Shoal Cave can be used for Shelter, Glalie, or another Slowpoke. And other than that, try to maximize the amount of diverse water types you have. You're going to want a lot of Swift Swim Pokemon, and high special attack Swift Swim water type with Dive for Archie later. And stuff like Mantine, Poliwrath, Cordilli, and Omastar and Kabutops are good pickups. Keep in mind you're also going to get Kabutops, Omastar, Morelli, or Cordilli in the underwater, which is its own met location after Tate Liza while using Dive. Ideally, we still have Meteor Falls delayed from Milotic after we get Waterfall, but if we have an E4 team build that doesn't need Milo, we can use this encounter too. But this is the part of the game where we want to start looking at what we need for the Elite Four. We will still be getting Ludicolo and Dusclops, but hopefully we have Immense, Slowbro, Rally, and a normal type as options. We still have a couple routes where we can get a good normal type too. These fishing encounters vary based on what encounters you already have and what you need to go for, so playing this out is key. I'll have a document linked to the description that only has these fishing routes, but what you are going to absolutely need are Shell Armor Slowbro, Ghastly, Relicanth, Staryu, Quillfish, and Wilmer. And hopefully you'll be able to pick up another explosion Pokemon, though Gengar and your guaranteed Muck later is sufficient. Oh boy, now it's time for the Moss Deep Gym. The trainers here are tough. They are all double battles with a lot of psychic types and interesting gimmicks. The second trainer can be tough, especially the Jinx, Slowbro, and Executor side. Third trainer you can abuse with skill swap AI as we saw with Norman. And the fifth one has a weird Perish Song Shadow Tag gimmick, but can be played around with a skill swap user, which is most likely going to be Mischievous as it's a great option for Tate Liza. The last trainer can be pretty tough, but the most consistent strat is to Earthquake with something like Golem, bait a Brick Break into a Ghost type, and catch the Metagross as it switches in after Electrode explodes. It can get tricky when exploding Lax comes in and the Gengar can potentially Shadow Ball your Ghost type, but baiting Boom and a Shadow Ball into something like Aggron or another Pokemon can work. Tate Liza is a very scary fight on paper, but can be manageable with the right stuff. The most consistent strategy is to lead with an exploding Gengar. You can move Tutor Explosion in Pacific-Log, and after you explode, you can go to Mischievous as Medicham comes in. Skill swap the Medicham to get huge power and start killing things with Shadow Ball while you pivot with the other side. Something like Gyarados' Steelix works well with that pivot. There is a Jirachi and a Starmie in the back that can be pretty scary as well. That's just one simplified strat for the fight. You can also use 2 exploding Pokemon. Safe strats revolve around having at least 1 exploding Pokemon. Trying to make a strat without explosion is very tough. Here are some examples of Tate Liza teams. After the gym, the level cap goes to 77 and we go to the Moss Deep Space Center. There's a back-to-back-to-back grunt fight that stuff like Tenta, Magcargo, and Donphan are good for. Then we eventually get to a tag battle with Steven. Unfortunately, Steven leads with a -1 attack Aerodactyl, so he won't help much. The main strat for this fight, and one of the only strats, is to lead Starmie, Psychic the Gengar, Hydro Pump the Charizard, and Ice Beam the Salamence, with having Slowbro and something like Wailord in the back. Something like Feraligatr or Milotic also work well here. Now we can get our underwater encounter and head to Sootopolis City. This is where our intentionally underleveled Pokemon at level 51 comes in. So we can Repel Manip to guarantee a Lotad, and we do this to guarantee we get Fake Out before evolving into Ludicolo. Next is Seafloor Cavern. In Room 7, with Tentacruel and Mantine dupes, you can get a Muck, which is definitely something you want unless you already have an Archie Boomer. Now this is the part of the game where you're gonna be using a lot of the same Pokemon. Slowbro, Ludicolo, Tentacruel, Wailord, Kingdra, and Swissland Pokemon are great. One good thing about rainy weather is that it benefits the player significantly more than the sun. So with a level advantage and using the right Pokemon, these trainers aren't too bad. Be careful of Grunt Force slacking, however, as it's claimed many lives. Be careful of Shelly, who has a staldy Ludicolo and a very scary Vaporeon. Then we get to Archie. The main strat for this fight is to bait moves with Swift Swim Dive Pokemon and explode with something like Muck. You can intentionally underlevel your Muck so Suicune doesn't die and gets killed by dive that happens next turn. Something like Swift Swim Relicanth can kill Dragonite, and Metagross usually gets left on the field as it loves to spam Protect. You can also do a lot of pivoting with this fight, for example Ludicolo and Relicanth on Quillfish. Next we can go to Sootopolis City and the Cave of Origin is open. You're going to want to prepare for the Duskull encounter as it has Teleport. Wobbuffet with Shadow Tag is great. Stuff like Meanla, Crobat, or Clamp Pokemon can also be used. It does get scary at the Duskull is high level, but this encounter matters a lot. Sootopolis Gym is another place where you're going to be using a lot of the Pokemon you've been using for the rain splits. Slowbro, Ludicolo, Wailord, Tentacruel, VA Lantern, Sceptile, and the usual stuff. Expert Annika can be especially hard with a Swift Swim Vaporeon. The gym technically has 2 gym leaders. First one is a single battle with Wallace. A strat is to lead Slowbro and spam Slack Off as the Kingdra dies to its own Draco Meteor recoil. The Swampert can be tricky, Ludicolo sometimes playing into Double Yawn or Ancient Power. Milotic is commonly beaten by Wailord. You can teach Sleep Talk or Pre-Sleep. Tenta usually beats Ludicolo, and Lapras and Castform need answers. Lastly, there is Juan, who is a tough double battle. Hopefully we still have some Boom Pokemon. Wailord can hard scale Boom, and you're probably going to have to play offensively. Ludicolo has a field day with the grass moves. Don't be afraid to sack anything that's not on the Elite Four team. After that, we can get everything to level 100, and we have 3 or 4 encounters left. Evergrande City, which is most likely Blaziken or Sceptile. Victory Road, which can be a good normal type or a dupe for 123. And 123, where you can get a good Elite Four Pokemon. With our level advantage, we can breeze through 123 trainers. There are a bunch of double battles with weird items. Make sure to bring Fly to escape. The 123 encounter has a lot of potential. Tauros, Slaking, and Snorlax are especially fantastic Elite Four Pokemon. You also get the Giga Drain TM at the end of this route for Ludicolo. Victory Road trainers are pretty simple with a big level advantage. There is a red fight with a bunch of legendaries, but his Pokemon do have some big weaknesses. Be careful of Expert Julie. You want to find a way to kill her without any expected booms, and try not to proc Metagross's Lychee Berry. Wind Straight Veto can also be tough with high level Pokemon, but after a long Victory Road section, we finally make it to the Elite Four. When planning for your Elite Four, immediately put Slowbro and Dusclops on your team. Ludicolo is also most likely going to be brought for Glacia, and Salamence is most likely going to be your Intimidator. But there are some other normal types who also fill this role. Relicanth is also a great Pokemon for Glacia, but make sure to be checking your ranges with Relicanth Head Smash. Wobbuffet is also a good Latios answer for Drake. A cracked Blaziken starter is also fantastic for Elite 4. The good thing about Slowbro is that it gets recycle, and with Shell Armor and Lepa Berry, it can be almost unkillable in many scenarios. Intimidators also pair well with this. Big thing on Sydney is Houndoom. Finding an answer for that can be tough. Champ, Tauros, and Sableye can all be pivoted on with an Intimidator, and Slowbro can wall it, Dusclops can beat Jolteon, and Zam can be beaten by Wobbuffet or something else. BB can be led by Dusclops as he Shadow Sneak the Gengar twice, Ludi can be beaten by Mence or a group effort with multiple Pokemon, Gardevoir can be beaten by Wob or maybe Dusclops, and Sableye and Dusclops can be pivoted on, and Crobat can be beaten by Slowbro. Again, these are very general strategies. Your items and movesets matter a lot for Elite 4, and it's all about bringing a team that synergizes well with each other. Glacia is where the hard part starts. Relicanth is one of the best leads against Glalie. You get one White Herb in the game that can be used to erase the Intimidate. Decent Swistle and Rally can kill Glalie and Regice back to back. Dewgong can be walled by Slowbro. If you're faster than a paralyzed Dewgong, you can completely PP stall the Dewgong and have a better position. Most likely, you're gonna need to use Ludicolo for Lapras and Swampert. Wailord can be tricky with Explosion, Water Spout, and Hyper Voice, but if you set it up, you can lock the Wailord into spammy Water Spout on Slowbro when it sees kill and Slackos to prevent you from dying. Drake is a tough battle that you need to plan specific sequences for. You can stack a couple Pokemon here if you need to. Latios answers are pretty rare. Most people use Wobbuffet Mirror Coat, but safer strats include fast normal types or other weird techs. Tyranitar is usually killed with something like Salamence or your normal type, and Latios is usually beaten by Clops, Shadow Ball into Shadow Sneak. Kingdra, Salamence, and Dragonite are tricky, with stuff like your Slowbro, Rally, and Ludicolo having to be used. Steven is usually a type battle. Dusclops is absolutely needed here. Blaziken starters get to kill Metagross and Jirachi back to back. Metagross lead can be tough, but Salamence with Flamethrower is an okay lead. Slowbro and Wob work here as well. Mewtwo is most likely going to be beaten by Dusclops. This is the champion fight, so sacking is perfectly fine in most cases. Dusclops can kill Deoxys with Shadow Sneak as well, and hopefully Dusclops can get a Shadow Ball and on Starmie. The Jirachi is the main threat. Dusclops Earthquake, Salamence Flamethrower, and Slowbro Flamethrower are usually the best options here. An Aerodactyl usually gets walled by Slowbro. Again, this was a very simplified version of various fights and strategies in Emerald Kaizo. These fights take thorough planning, knowledge of baiting the AI, and calculations to pull off. If you want to see footage of various parts of Emerald Kaizo, I have a list of streamers who have Twitch highlights in the description. Also, if you have any questions or want to share progress of your Emerald Kaizo attempts, link to mine and other discords will be linked to the description. There are many people with great knowledge of the game and willing to help new players get into it. It's been really nice to see how much a difficult game like this has been broken down, and I truly believe anyone with some patience and game knowledge can beat Emerald Kaizo. I hope this video was helpful or interesting to anyone who has or will play this game. And if you would like to see my Elite 4, it will be linked to the description. It was pretty wild. And if you would like to see any highlights from my Emerald Kaizo attempt, they will be linked in the description. I also have full challenge highlights of various hard Nuzlockes for you guys to check out. But anyways, thanks for watching and have a great day.